Hello, good evening, and welcome to another fluffy video. We've had BlizzCon this last weekend, and in our previous video, which was called LFR Sucks Balls, we went on a rant about some of the issues that we thought were plaguing WoW. And so now that we've had BlizzCon and a new expansion has been announced, we thought it'd be a good time to talk about some of the features that were brought up that are going to be changing in the game, and how they speak to what we were talking about in our previous video. I mean, the title of that video, LFR Sucks Balls, it pretty much says everything that it kind of summarises what we were saying in that video. Generally just a sense of streamlining the game, making content irrelevant, making everything a little bit too touristy. You know, you can just basically log in and you don't need to have friends, make a community. You can just hit that random matchmaking button and see everything, and then cancel your subscription. That was kind of, in a nutshell, what we were saying. If you're interested in watching that video, we'll put a link to it at the end of this one. But anyway, a lot of the things that we mentioned in that video were brought up at BlizzCon, and we planned to do a video that talked about all the features that were brought up in depth, but really we decided that that's not, we don't need to do that. There's tons of information about this topic out there, and we'll put links to all the relevant sites below so you can go and check it out if you're not up to speed. So there's really no need for us to gloss over all that stuff. We just want to talk about the things that were addressed that deal with some of the things in our previous video. So what were those things? Well, community was a big thing that they were trying to reinvigorate in their panels at BlizzCon. They talked about the fact that the game could essentially be renamed World of Qcraft. That was actually a joke that someone made, and started talking about all the cross-realm functionality that they're really starting to build into the game now. And one of the tools that sounded really awesome was the cross-realm LFG. So you'll be able to queue up for pretty much anything you can think of, make a group for it, and advertise it cross-realm. So there's going to be a huge pool of players that you can get to do pretty much anything you can think of. So that's one thing. Awesome. And so another thing was cross-realm raiding. They did mention all sorts of changes to the raiding structure that we're not going to get into in this video in too much detail, but it does sort of downplay the LFR aspect. They really want that aspect to be a tourist mode, which is awesome. Personally, I'd like to see it removed entirely because I think it just sucks the life out of the game. You can pretty much queue up and see the end boss, no problems, but they did sort of say that they want to sideline that stuff now, and that putting rewards in for that sort of thing originally was pretty much there to give people a reason, because they didn't think it'd be that popular. Now it's like one of the most popular modes to play the game in, and they've come up with another system instead to reward people for actually making friendships, using those friend pools to build their own custom groups without using random matchmaking, and that's going to be a buff or a reward, I think, called Stacking the Deck. That'll give you some bonus rewards for just making your own group and not relying on the random matchmaking tool. And I don't know, personally, I think if the rewards for doing that are significant, then that's going to be awesome, because everyone's going to want to do that. It's going to bring back a lot of just making teams up, and presumably you'll be able to use the cross-realm LFG for that as well. So perhaps turning back to more of the time in Classic where you were relying more on pulling from a pool of friends, looking in chat for a few people to fill out your group, and then going in and tackling the instance or older content. Perhaps you're going to go and do a transmog run. So that's awesome. That's really, I think that could be big if they do it right. That's going to bring back a lot of the community aspect to the game, which has died off a lot with the World of Qcraft that they were talking about. So that was a big feature that really piqued my interest. So good stuff there. Really quick on the changes to raiding. I say I'm not going to go into too much depth, as you can find this information out everywhere. But essentially, yeah, they're changing flex to basically the standard model for raiding. So all raid sizes except the ultra hardcore mythic mode will be flex. So essentially, at the moment, obviously you've got 10 man and 25 man. You know how all this works. Now all you're going to have is basically flex from 10 to 25. So you can build whatever raid group you want for not hardcore endgame raiding, and then if you want to work towards becoming that hardcore endgame raider, it's there for you in the 20-man mythic. Some people have complained about that, but it's an expansion, it's a transition. People are gonna, if you want to do that hardcore endgame raiding, the people who want to do that are going to do that. and everyone else just gets to have fun, just gets to make their group whatever size. They don't have to bench people. Awesome, really cool. Every difficulty up until that mythic is going to be flex, fantastic. And so I think that's awesome for people who perhaps felt like they couldn't commit anymore. There's a lot of people who played the game back in the day that didn't feel like they could possibly commit to a rigorous raiding schedule. This is going to really allow those casual guilds to really make informal raiding. It doesn't matter if, for instance, if Daniel or John can't get on one night because hey, the raid will just scale down and we'll get on with it. Or perhaps you had too many people in the past. If you were running a 10-man, now you can just pretty much bring however many extras. You don't have to bench people. All good stuff. A lot more flexibility. Fantastic. Really pleased about that. And so, outside of raiding and grouping and things like that, they also talked about bringing back some of the world exploration from vanilla and obviously world PvP that comes along with that. And the big vehicle they were talking about that brings that stuff back, a PvP zone in the new map of Draenor, and essentially they were talking about trying to model it on original AV, in which the battle is ongoing, it's perpetual. And anyone who played old AV will know that when you logged in one morning, you could go to work, do whatever, come home, have dinner, come back, and the same AV could be going on, and that could continue for days. They want this to be a perpetual battle with no set time frame. So that's awesome. We loved the idea of world PvP in Classic, and then later on we enjoyed Winter Grasp, and then gradually it just sort of slowly got phased out as we went more and more towards that queuing up for Battlegrounds and just sitting in Ironforge. Really pleased to hear that. Hope there's going to be some interesting mechanics and stuff like that involved. Another aspect that we were talking about in our rant mode video, which was essentially stats getting out of hand, numbers, damage numbers just being ridiculous, and they did say that they're going to try and do a stat squish. They seemed pretty dead set on it. I don't know if it's going to change or not. I mean, they currently say that they've got it in their client, in their internal alpha builds, and it works, so they're probably just going to stick with that. Well, I mean, essentially all it means is that everything's getting scaled down. You're still going to relatively hit for the same amount of damage. You're going to heal for the same amount of healing. Everything's being scaled down, so it's not a nerf. Anyone who says it's a nerf's a fucking idiot. So yeah, just shut up. It's not a nerf. Everything's getting scaled down, and if you really care about seeing massive numbers on your screen, then you're going to be disappointed. But yeah, I welcome that change. I think numbers were getting a bit out of hand, so it's good to see that being added in. And another thing, again, leveling. We talked about how leveling was, it was better than classic WoW now, especially with the changes that have been made in Cataclysm, where you're not having to run from one end of the world to the other. And they were talking about that, but they were also saying that they want to make it more free-flowing, a little bit more rewarding of exploration. So they were talking about revamping the quest UI, and they showed some graphics for that. And they were also saying they were going to have some special icon come up to demonstrate lore-specific elements in the questing. So if you really just want to go for the main storyline, you'll be able to do that and then go off and do other activities. And you won't have to unlock quest hubs. They'll all just be unlocked by default. You can just go from one area to the next and not have to do the special prerequisite chain, so that's good. Seems a little bit more like Guild Wars 2 style questing, or something that you might have experienced in the Time of Sile, where you can pretty much just wander into an area and stuff's going to be happening. I think that's a good way to think about the direction that they're trying to take it, and not so much, pick up all these quests, go out and do your shopping list, come back, get the next lot, and then move on to the next hub, because they want people to explore the world, feel like they're getting explored. You're going to find areas where there's chests possibly containing some kind of epic or rare item that is going to reward you for going and getting involved in the world, so that's awesome. What else have we got? Leveling being more of a reward. So obviously there's level 100, as they mentioned, and one of the things that people have been complaining about, obviously, is when you level up, you don't get to spend that talent point anymore because of the talent revamp. So what they were talking about was bringing back something of that, not exactly the same, but, I mean, they didn't go into too much specifics about it, but they did say that when you level up, you'll be able to essentially upgrade your spells in some way. And largely, they were saying that the upgrades will be changes that they were wanting to bring to the spells anyway, but you'll just be able to sort of gradually unlock them, a bit like old spell ranks in a weird kind of a way. So you're going to get that feeling of powering up your character as you gain that level, especially with 10 levels. I think that's important. So those are the things they talked about that address the issues we brought up in our rant mode video. But there were some things that weren't addressed, and whether that changes over the course of beta, that remains to be seen. But we'll just quickly run down those now so we know exactly where we are with that. They didn't talk about the difficulty of heroic 5-mans. Heroic 5-mans don't feel heroic anymore, and that's partially because of they're essentially tuned for random matchmaking at the moment. So whether that changes in Warlords, I'm not sure if that's going to happen. They didn't talk about it too much. I just want to see hard heroics back. I want to go into that 5-man dungeon and require sheeping, require some CC, require some teamwork, because there's nothing more mind-numbing than going into a heroic and just having, especially at the end tier of the game, when the tank could effectively solo it. I've healed heroics where I needed to cast, just renew on the tank, maybe someone else every 5 minutes, and essentially I could just do DPS spells to the rest of the instance. That's just not fun. It's boring. I want to see heroic 5-man content be challenging, perhaps on the level of the heroics that were done at the end of Wrath of the Lich King or Burning Crusade heroics. Let's just bring that back. Let's just make it hard. It helps people progress to that raiding that they're talking about, getting people back into on a social level. So I really would like to see that. I hope it's if it's there in beta. I hope people don't whinge and then they nerf it, because that's just, I want to see those heroic 5-mans. They didn't address the making content irrelevant with each patch. This was a big thing that we were talking about. So the way that a tier comes out and then the previous raid, you can basically jump over the top of it. You get the catch-up system so that you don't need to do that, and that's effectively been the case since Wrath. I miss the days of having to progress a guild from the bottom to the top. It gave you lots more content, it gave you lots more to work towards, rather than just doing the latest raid when it comes out and having it on farm in a couple of months and then having nothing to do. If you're a guild that's behind, you've got lots of content there just waiting for you to get your teeth into. And it worked in vanilla. I don't see the argument of, it's not fair to have to level people up, and if you get people, if you're in a high-end raiding guild, you can blitz through an old raid in one evening, get that person some gear, and then get on your merry way. It's not this huge chore. If you're trying to get recruits, get them up to speed, it can be done very quickly. It's not this huge issue, really. I don't think. And yeah, again, back in vanilla, some guilds were on Blackwing Lair, some were on AQ40, some were on Molten Core. It generally worked, in my experience, on a fairly populated realm. I'm not sure about smaller realms, but with cross realm, again, it becomes less of an issue. If you're in a situation where raiding could become essentially cross realm completely, you could effectively have cross realm guilds, form groups of people that want to do the first tier of raiding for that expansion, and then catch up. It's going to give people a lot more content. It's going to increase the lifespan of the content. I don't think they're going to change it. I think they're going to stick with this stupid catch-up system that then puts them in a situation where they're having to put out more content in a shorter space of time because people are just burning through the current things so quickly. So unless they make the current tier actually take a bit longer to get through, that's another solution. I don't know. Remains to be seen. I think it's going to stay as it is largely. That's my forecast for that. And also the final thing that they didn't really say was going the way of the dodo was LFR still being there, still effectively enabling a new player to come into the game, queue their way through it up to the end boss, and then end their subscription. I still, for the life of me, cannot understand why Blizzard would want such a system. If anything, it's contributing to the decline in subs that they have, because there's nothing for that new person to do. That new person doesn't know that there's more stuff to raiding than that. They simply see the content, see the story all the way to its finish, and then say, well, I've done the game, I am going to end my subscription now. So, they did talk about making it the last resort, and so they have addressed giving people more incentive to group up and form friendships, form groups that will regularly do content. So maybe it will actually be sidelined effectively, and it'll still just be there as what they called it, the tourist mode. it remains to be seen what the fate of LFR is. I would like to see it just gone completely, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Alright, so that's all the stuff really that they mentioned to do with our video, at least. The things that we were saying were bad in the game at the moment. There was one negative point that really grinded my gears, apart from the things we just mentioned, and that was the boost to 90 thing. You know, again, it's that catch-up method. Skipping over tons of content, removing that from someone's experience. And yeah, they did say it's only going to be one character one time when you buy the new expansion. But I just can't see why they would want people to skip all that content. It really, I don't. They put forward the argument of, well, people want to join, play with their friends. You know, I get it. You know, they want to play through the new content together. But really, you know, they nerf the XP anyway. It doesn't take that long to level up once the XP gets nerfed up to the current level. It takes possibly a week at the maximum. So, yeah, the fact that it's there, it just bothers me. You know, it doesn't need to be there. I'd like to see it go, but they've announced it, so it's probably going to stick. So yeah, that's all the problems really that we mentioned. On the whole, the expansion looks great. You know, there's a lot of cool features. The races are getting updated. That's fantastic. Really looking forward to that. They really fucking need those updated races. The story, you know, it sounds cool. I like time travel in games, not gonna lie. I think it gives a new dimension to some of the places that you get to go to. So that's fantastic. The garrisons, always nice to have another feature. Kind of like the pets in a sense. The pet battles, just something else to do. Something for you to level up and unlock features and stuff. Sounds fun to me. It doesn't necessarily change the game totally. It's just something extra there if you want it. Fantastic. Can't complain. It's completely optional, isn't it? Alright, so there's been some bitching in the community because, let's be honest, what online gaming community does not bitch about every fucking single detail? So I'll go over the big ones and then talk about why everyone just needs to chill out, okay? Community has been saying, first of all, that the story makes absolutely no sense. What the fuck is all this time travel? How can we go back in time without changing things? Look, it's, you know, I know there are people that take the lore seriously and it's important to them. You can see that obviously by watching Blizzcon, the amount of people who ask obscure questions at the lore panels. It's so big, but Blizzard said several times at this BlizzCon, it's a time travel story, but it's not. It facilitates us going to a place in Warcraft history, and that's all you need to think of. Don't think of it as changing the timeline. It doesn't work like that. And people saying, yeah, but time travel doesn't work like that. And honestly, how do you know time travel doesn't work like that? Have you got any real world examples of time travel? No, you haven't. So shut the fuck up. You've just let them do whatever they want in their own story. There's plenty of examples of multiple time threads in all sorts of things. I mean, just watch Back to the Future, for fuck's sake. Tangents splitting off in time that don't affect fucking anything really in the present. Happens all the time in things like Doctor Who. And so, yeah, just deal with it, you know. Haters gonna hate, aren't they? People were bitching about no new races. Look, there's only so much they can do in an expansion, and effectively you're getting, 8 new races with the class revamp? You've got new Night Elf, new Human, new Dwarf, Elves, all of them. The Orcs, Gnomes, Trolls, they're all getting updated. They did say that some of them might come in patches, but, you know, they're looking to get them all for launch, hopefully. And obviously, tons of work's gone into that. People are saying, yeah, well, there's no new race or class in this expansion. They're doing all this other stuff instead. They're revamping all these systems. They're changing stats, you know, they're making it easier to get items. Well, they're making it more fun to get items. You get an item, you're no longer going to have to reforge it, thank Christ. All this stuff's getting updated, as well as the new content that's getting added, and people are still sitting there going, but there's no new races, this is the shittiest expansion ever. Fuck off, you're wrong, okay? Level 100 talents suck. yeah, you know, every time they bring out new talents, obviously they suck, but they did heavily emphasize the fact that these are early placeholder talents. They're obviously going to change. They're going to be made into something probably not as lackluster. A lot of them are lackluster, but beta is going to happen. People are going to give feedback that everything's going to be balanced. And really, at this stage, complaining that the 100 talents are a load of crap is just pathetic. It's ridiculous. But I guess you've got to bitch about something, haven't you, right? What else? People were saying that it's a rehash of Outland. You know, it's not a rehash of Outland. They've built this continent from the ground up. It looks amazing. You know, they haven't reused our assets that much from what I can see. Obviously, there's going to be a few places that look familiar. Obviously, there's going to be a few races and characters and factions and things like that that look familiar, because it is a historical before the shattering of Outland, but they've built it from the ground up, and it's got a lot more depth to it. I think from the look, the artwork that's gone into it looks absolutely fantastic. So calling it an Outland rehash, it's not a Cataclysm for Outland. You know, Cataclysm, they just went back and they put in some lava and some chasms and stuff into the old world, and that kind of motivated the revamped quests and everything. So yeah, it's not an Outland rehash. Shut up. Oh, the raid changes. The raid changes are going to kill the game. My guild's 10-man, my guild's 25-man. You've got an expansion, okay? People are going to be coming back to the game. They're going to be leveling up. They're going to be looking for guilds. Raid groups generally tend to shuffle around at this time. I'm sure everything's... You know, they went from 40-man to 25 and 10-man. Okay? These changes happen. Just deal with it. You're going to find players. There's going to be more, with a lot of 25 men probably kicking out a few players due to the shift to 20-man mythic. There's going to be a lot of heroic raiders looking for guilds. Give them a home. You know, it's not going to kill the game. Everything's going to kill the game. If you ask any forum, WoW forum, oh, these changes suck, it's going to be the end of WoW. I'm going to go and play some other game now. Okay, fine, see ya. WoW's got plenty of subs left. They're still the biggest MMO. Enjoy your other game. Oh, boost to 90 sucks. Well, I kind of agree with that point, so I'm going to let people have their way with that one. And yeah, generally people, you know, they're going to bitch about anything, aren't they? So there you go. So that's our thoughts about BlizzCon. I say we didn't really feel the need to rehash all the points that were brought up because it's all out there, all the information's out there. You know how to go to MMO Champion, you know how to go to Blizzard's website. Just go and read the information if you don't know what the fuck we're talking about. So what are your thoughts on these topics? Will this expansion bring you back if you're an old player and you feel like these changes bring it back to a community level? Or you know, or do you just fucking hate WoW forever? Or maybe you're playing and you think this is all these changes are shit and you're going to quit. Leave us a comment, tell us why you think that. I say there's links in the description to everything. If you like this video, please hit the like button, and if you didn't like it, then just hit that dislike button and fuck off. Just get it over and done with. We hate you. Just go away, okay? Don't forget to subscribe for more information, and as always, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.